FaZe should have been eliminated right here.
He's not positioned for the bomb!
But Kerrigan stopped the defuse with 0.4 seconds left, which started a legendary run to the Budapest Major Grand Finals. But what if that clutch was actually a curse? Because ever since, everything has fallen apart. 0 wins against top 10 opposition in 2026, key players looking completely washed, and the final blow, missing the Cologne Major. This is how surviving by 0.4 seconds ended one of the greatest teams in Counter-Strike. Ad time. I've found the fastest way to sell Counter-Strike skins, and it's a site I've actually been using myself recently. For example, I decided to sell this P250 but didn't want to wait for a buyer, so I checked Skin.Land and they immediately gave me a very competitive offer. And the best part is that I could cash out instantly after reaching a certain sales volume. Let me show you. I select this skin, choose crypto from the menu withdrawal methods, enter my payment details, accept the trade on Steam, and boom, here's the deposit. It literally took 4 minutes. I think their excellent Trustpilot rating speaks for itself, so if you have some skins to sell, click the link in the description and you'll get $10 free when selling over $100 in skins. To understand FaZe's collapse, we have to go back to when everything still looked great. In April 2024, they won IEM Chengdu, and that victory came as their 8th Grand Finals appearance in a row. At the time, FaZe looked like one of the most complete rosters in the world, with only Team Spirit and Vitality stealing their #1 ranking slot every once in a while. I mean, on the other hand, this lineup was somehow #3 in the world, so it really was a bit of a weird time to be alive. But that Chengdu trophy became the beginning of a terminal illness. And after it, FaZe never returned to another final in the same clean, dominant way people were used to. During the next few months, they started to play worse, but for a while the results still disguised the underlying sickness, and they remained close enough to the top that it was easy to believe that just one more tournament win would bring back the old FaZe. It was like nothing felt broken enough to force change, and they were still good enough to hope, but just not consistent enough to trust. And that is often the most dangerous place a team can be in, because it makes the decline feel temporary when it's actually structural. At the end of 2024, ropz's contract expired and he left for Vitality. FaZe lost more than just a star rifler. They lost a player who had been crucial to their late round stability. Mr. Cool was amazing at cleaning up the consequences when FaZe's vibe, momentum and chaos style of play went wrong. He was the one player balancing out the team and keeping them on a straight line, and his departure meant that FaZe started to spin in circles. They tried to plug in ELiGE and later jcobbb and switched out Rain for Twists right before the Budapest Major, but none of those roster moves worked. With every month that went on, FaZe just looked worse and worse and worse on the server, and entering the Budapest Major, most people would have doubted them to even make playoffs. But FaZe wanted their one last dance.
If you're winning in the game, it's never over.
So in the months prior to Budapest, FaZe's rating had dropped so much, they started the major in stage 1, having to prove themselves against tier 1.5 teams, and their first game against LinVision actually looked good. But then they lost to NRG and Ninjas in Pyjamas, 2 teams that on paper were 10 to 20 rating spots below them. And so came their elimination game against the Red Canids, a tier 2 Brazilian side that should have been an easy stomp for FaZe. But instead they got destroyed on their own map pick of Mirage, and heading into Nuke, the tension is at an all-time high. Every round is scrappy. It is not pretty Counter-Strike. The half ends 6-6 and everyone is spamming save frozen because what the f is this? But things got even worse in the second half. FaZe looked like shadows of their former selves, there is barely any team player coordination, and the Red Canids put themselves on match point at a 12-10 scoreline.
Not even making top 24. If they don't win these next 2 rounds and close out overtime.
But it's time for some FaZe magic. After trading players outside, the Red Canids see 2 more towards red, so the A-side players get out of position to account for it, and when Kerrigan calls to shift back to lobby and attack the A site, only Venomzera is home. As he falls, so does Kawes, allowing FaZe to plant and win the round. Then, round 24 starts with a classic twists entry, Jacob finds another towards ramp, and FaZe get the bomb down. But their lack of coordination shows as they lose players without proper trades, leaving Brokey and Kerrigan in a 2v1. Now Kerrigan chooses to play it safe instead of peeking left side of ramp, which would have set up an unbeatable crossfire, so History gets a free kill on Brokey, runs on site towards the bomb and starts defusing. He is not going to fake it. Kerrigan has 5 seconds to secure the kill. Now let's freeze for a little bit. In this moment, as a lifetime FaZe Clan fan, my heart wanted Kerrigan to stop the defuse, but my brain said that it's best not to. Because bombing out in the first stage of the Major would have made FaZe Clan face reality and do the only thing that could save them in the long run. And that is to change. But instead, it's time for some FaZe magic again. FaZe have pushed overtime operating on a 0.4 second margin, and the rest is history. Get it? Not only do they get out of stage 1, but also breeze through stage 2 3-0, and although stage 3 comes to a double 13-11 win over Passion UA, they make playoffs, destroy Mouse, take down Na'Vi, and find themselves in the grand finals, where Vitality gives them a map and then proceeds to just absolutely destroy them. So although the FaZe magic somehow worked to push a pretty much dead team to the major finals, you can equate it to chugging coffee after not getting enough sleep. Sure, it worked in the short term, but not fixing the root cause of your problems always comes back to haunt you. There is only one picture you need to see to understand how FaZe have been doing since the Budapest Major. Look, if I was a doctor, I'd probably prescribe some Viagra, but since I get paid for yapping, I'll just explain what the problem is. Remember how I said that after Chengdu, an underlying sickness started developing? Well, that disease is called apathy. A lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. Let's take ropz leaving, for example. Back then, FaZe was actually on the same level or slightly better than Vitality, but since Mr. Cool was so close to the kitchen, he could sense that FaZe are starting to lack ambition and drive, and seeing how hungry for victories Vitality were at the time, the choice was obvious. And that's where FaZe started to fully adopt this reactive approach to things. Oh, we've lost ropz. Well, I guess he was good mechanically, so we probably need somebody who's also gifted in that sense. Let's take ELiGE for the vibes, I guess. Oh, Brokey's form is heavily dipping. Well, we could just rip off the bandage and kick him, to then invest in a young upcoming upper who can be molded into a great player. Brokey 2.0 if you may. But no, let's instead take Simple as a PR move because we well know we have no money to actually sign him, and let's just hope that Brokey had his time to think and has magically improved. It did work for like 2 weeks, I'll give him that much. But this just goes on and on and on. Over the last 2 years, instead of being proactive and changing something before things get worse, FaZe Clan just kept going with this vibes approach, hoping that eventually everything will be okay. And don't get me wrong, this is a good mindset to have, but for it to work, you actually need players that can perform individually. Unfortunately, over the last 2 years, 4 out of 5 players on FaZe Clan have become super inconsistent. It's literally frozen 1v9 half the time. So yeah, mine is Brokey, I guess, but the same case can be made for Jacob, Kerrigan, and as of recent, Twists as well. But the problem is that now if you kick more than 2 players, you lose all of the VRS points that come with a 3-player core, pretty much fully resetting your ranking, meaning getting to the next major after Cologne would be a grind. Oh, and did I mention they also have no coach? Normally when a team starts running into a problem, they fix it, so that when the next problem comes up, they can deal with it on its own again. But every time FaZe ran into a problem, they just pretended it doesn't exist, swept it under a rug, and believed things will magically work out on their own. So this is why the 0.4 second defuse denial was such a curse, because if not for it, FaZe management would have been pretty much forced to make much needed changes, and I'm 100% certain they would have made it to the Cologne Major and probably even the playoffs. But instead, they waited for the right wind when the ship itself had no sail.